Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. I am Shane Davis, and this is Yanzi Lynn. And we first hope you all had a great Christmas. You got everything you wanted this year. We are once again talking about cancel pigs, as I've been sent a couple of podcasts from Heidi MacDonald. And this goes back to the Mark Millar thing. Obviously, he stood up for a retailer when people were like, I just want the characters. I don't want self-insertions, all of that stuff. Now, what's interesting in this video and what we're going to about to show you is how wishy-washy the mainstream comic book media is, but and how corrupt in a way, and how they're willing to platform you and promote you as long as you are saying what they want to say. Now, this is going to support a lot of the theories of the whisper note. One in case both videos or both audio you're about to hear are coming from Heidi McDonald, the owner of the Comics Beat. And let's get into it, Jan.
So now we're going to listen to Heidi McDonald and how she talks up Mark Millar and how she wants to interview him.
Boy, I don't know. That's a really great question. I mean, I'd love to. I tell you, if you're listening, he's not. But I'll tell you who I'd like to interview right now. It's Mark Millar from Millar, right?
I can imagine why. I think it ties into a big reason why I had you on.
But I mean, listen, I know Mark quite well. You know, I mean, we've known each other for a long time. In fact, there was one night at a con where me, Mark, Alex Ross, and one other comics journalist sat there and talked for like an hour. It was just like the end of the night. The bar was closed. We just sat there and shot the breeze for like an hour. It was amazing. I wish I remembered more of that conversation. But yeah, I would love to talk to Mark Millar now, because he obviously has a lot to say. And I mean, I'm not saying I disagree. Actually, he has some, I mean, Mark's super smart and has some really great points. So it wouldn't even be like, how can you possibly think Robert F. Kennedy is sane? Because he's not, obviously. But, you know, I mean, Mark had one of those great moments that I've actually quoted many, many times in my work, is when he told me that it's only when people are desperate in comics that they really innovate, and which is true in all media. So I think we're reaching that point. So Mark actually has some very, 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 very insightful comments to make about comics. And so I think it would be a lively conversation.
Very interesting. So she talks about wanting to go and interview with Mark because it'll be a lively conversation, her words. And she had a 1 hour talk session with Mark and Alex Ross and some other journalists. So obviously she's not afraid to be seen in public being all nice and friendly with Mark Millar, isn't she?
Yeah, actually sounds like she's pretty big fan of his, not just his work, but as a creative person, as a guy who's got visions of what the comic industry could be in the future. Now, less than a month later, okay, that's where we're at, right? Less than a month later, she has a whole different opinion of. And you have to say what happened in that month and some tweets, but what threw people for the biggest loop is an interaction where Mark said to Ethan Van Sciver, cheers, bud. And for some reason that drove these people absolutely insane. And we're basically going to watch a big pivot, two-faced, whatever you want to call it, another podcast.
So not even 3 weeks later, and we have this whole new take on Mark Millar coming from Heidi MacDonald. So let's hear what she has to say. Over here, she's talking about comic creators and their marketing skills. All right. So remember previously she talked about how she agrees with Mark Millar about things like people are going to be doing really drastic changes now that industry is on a downturn, basically, kind of, sort of. So let's hear what she has to say now, ever since Mark Millar said the 2 words that ricochet around the sphere, i.e. cheers, bud.
So where does Mark Millar fit in this? You said you want to bring up Mark Millar, and I was like, do your thing. What do you got?
I mean, it's just really, so today the news broke at dawn that the Millar World books were moving from Image to Dark Horse. And I just think that explains, you know, Mark is a really great self-promoter. And I don't look down on people who do that, just because we're all hustling. We're all just trying to get through this. And, you know, Mark is a creator. He has a solid body of work behind him. You know, some of it is really great, and some of it is not so great, but you know, he's done it. And he's also got things that I don't like at all. And, you know, he's problematic as hell. But I'm just going to say, you know, you and I both have been, you know, David and I, this is a big shocker, but David and I sometimes DM each other and talk about things. And everybody's been talking about Mark Millar for the last couple months, because all of a sudden on Twitter, he was just, resurrecting himself in the dying embers. He was like standing there beating the drums and talking about, John, what if John Byrne did comics? I can do a Scottish accent because my name is McDonald, by the way. And I think it'd be great if they bought back all these old timer creators. Wouldn't that be great? And, you should get 50% royalties, like just throwing out everything out there, getting people talking about him.
Well, he knows how to lob a grenade and get his name in the news very, very well.
He does. He totally does. And I think he backed off from his totally bizarre political tweeting, which he had been doing for a long time, and into more like, let me stride into the discourse, and lob a grenade. And, now today they announced this kind of new,
Miller World's going to Dark Horse.
New program, new start, a new #1, starting all over with a new edition. And I'm sure he knew this was coming, and good for him. I say good for him just in terms of I'm stepping back and admiring just how he did it, because he did it so well. He got his name out there. Because honestly, David, do you think if we hadn't all been talking about Mark Millar and his, interesting ideas for this time, that if this news had just come out of nowhere, I was like, oh yeah, Mark Millar, whatever happened to him, right?
So I want to point out one thing. She makes a big reference about how problematic his political rantings are on Twitter, all right? But for some reason, less than a month ago, she wasn't deterred by his political rantings on Twitter. But now suddenly 3 weeks later, she's like, oh yeah, he's like this problematic tweeting patterns on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, it didn't matter 3 weeks ago. Why did it matter now? Oh, because he dared to take the side of a retailer who's saying, I don't want your self-insert characters anymore in my books. Give me back my Steve Rogers Captain America and not Joe Ryder Captain America.
And this is a theory, not a statement. This is a theory. But what you're seeing happened in those 3 weeks, you sit back and you start scratching your head. Well, something happened. Maybe a Legion of Doom type Whisper Network setting. And the memo went around and they all agreed it's time to cancel Mark Millar. Now, some of the things that happen here with cancel culture is you can't just straight out go up and cancel somebody, especially if they had any success in mainstream comic book industry. First, you have to act like, and we see this a lot with Cancel Pig #1, Mark Waid, is you have to say that they're out to pasture, that they're a fading star, that they're washed up. Because it would be too obvious that you're sinister, that your group is a cancel culture fanatics if you just cancel somebody just for canceling. You have to say they're washed up. And that's the reason that they're not
dying embers. Those were her phrases. And yet she's like, I would love to have interviewed him 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, don't you want to have an interview with somebody whose embers are dying, right?
I really want to point out this is coming from a site that puts out articles that the comic book industry is doing better year after year after year as it's making its money from YA books to manga, that the industry itself is doing better. This misinformation to retailers as they are going out of business because they're in the business of selling comic books, not manga. And this is a very corrupt thing. Every retailer should take stock of what he's selling and what he isn't selling, sure. But when these articles are going out there, it might give an illusion to somebody that there's something's changing, the tide is changing, and I should hang into this business one more year because the beat says it's doing better than ever. But anyways, if you guys will look down below, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notification. Also, please go check out Axcend Level Up, getting ready to be $104,000 with your support. This is, again, one of our 6-figure campaigns that we're looking to deliver this coming year. So I'll leave you guys with a trailer for this smash hit comics. Hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notification.
I dream of a world carefully crafted, beautifully flawed. This is Axcend. In this game of life, there is one thing that determines a victor. A player's ability to grow. A player's ability to evolve. a player's ability to survive. My name is Dog. Choose to play. Choose to upgrade. Choose to level up. Choose to Axcend.